Okay, so yo, this was basically the chapter that everyone's wanted ever since we switched over to the Heart Kingdom back in chapter 247. Because I mean, like, it's no secret that ever since that chapter, there's been a lot of complaints going on online about the way Tabata's been writing this section of the arc, this Heart Kingdom section. Because I mean, you had people complaining about the fact that we saw these very lackluster Dark Disciples or Dark Apostles fighting off against some of the main characters that we've grown to love, and the fights, even though they are only one chapter, aren't really all that interesting. And on top of that, we also get the fact that Tabata basically off-screened each of the Spirit Guardians besides Gaja. So we didn't even get introduced to three of them before they got taken out by the Dark Apostles, and they had been built up prior to this as being basically captain level people. So it was a huge disappointment to find out that they ended up getting defeated. And then on top of all that, really the only thing people wanted to see out of this Heart Kingdom section of the arc was really just seeing Vanica go up against the main characters. And in this chapter, Tabata basically addressed all those complaints. He skipped over the fourth Dark Apostle fight completely, showed us God to take him out one of him, so, kind of basically giving some credit to the Spirit Guardians by having one of them take out at least one Dark Apostle. Completely skipped over that fight, introduced the fifth and final Dark Apostle, and one-shotted him basically in this chapter. And then finally introduce Vanica to the main three characters. So yeah, after this chapter, I'm sure a lot of people who had been complaining online since chapter 247 up to the last chapter will probably, start to calm down now and not complain as much, because we're finally setting up exactly what they were hoping to get. But you know what, I'm going to be the odd one out and say that I'm actually a little bit disappointed by this. So the chapter actually starts off with a color cover page, and it's this picture of Charmy and her wolf, with this Charmy dressed up as Little Red Riding Hood, the wolf dressed up as a big bad wolf. Obviously, it seemed to imply that he's about to eat her, but obviously because of the fact that we know Charmy's wolf is there to, protect her, there's no real worry there. And she doesn't seem worried at all, as you can tell from the picture. Now, one thing I did notice that I didn't notice in my first reading is that if you look in the background, you can see Asta, and he seems to be playing the role as the hunter in the story, because he's just back there with his axe chopping away at a tree. Now, this is actually a really cool illustration. It's very comedic and very funny, but it doesn't really fit with this chapter, and I kind of wish Tabata would have gave it to us last week, since that chapter actually was all about Charmy. Would have been definitely great to get this color cover page for that chapter, but like I said, still a cool illustration, still very comedic, and it's well done. But anyway, getting right into the chapter, we see that Gaja, as soon as the chapter opens, has defeated the fourth Dark Apostle. We completely skipped over the fight, just like everyone wanted, and seemingly, just by the way the guy looks, it seemed like he has some kind of nail magic, because you can see that his nails are extremely long while he's laid out on the ground. And at the end of the chapter, we do end up seeing that, yeah, he does have some kind of nail magic, because he gets back up and tries to use it. Now, we don't know exactly what the extent of his magic is. We just see that his nails get exceedingly long, they seem to be very long talons at the end of the chapter. So maybe his magic is just to grow his nails and make them sharper. Maybe he can turn them metal, shoot them out. We don't know just yet, because we skipped over the fight. Oh, and while we're still talking about his magic, I do want to mention that earlier on in the week, I did read this theory about the Spade Kingdom demons and exactly what type of magic they have. I'm not going to talk about it now, because it's going to come up later on in the video when I talk about a later part of the chapter. But I do want to mention that basically the fact that we see that he does have tail magic, and when we see exactly what type of magic the fifth and final Dark Apostle has, it does seem like this theory actually might be correct. So we get to meet technically the fifth Spirit Guardian in the beginning of the chapter, and the only reason why I'm saying that he's technically the fifth, or she, I'm not exactly sure if it's a guy or a girl, I'm leaning more towards guy, but the reason why I say he's technically the fifth Spirit Guardian is because of the fact that even though he's the fourth one we get to meet in person, we did see one more back in chapter 247 when we first switched over to the Heart Kingdom, and we could see on Lord Protector screens the fact that the Spirit Guardians were taken out. We did see one other Spirit Guardian that we haven't been introduced to just yet. So this is still technically the fifth one we get to see. Now, that being said, we don't know which either of these two's names are yet, or what element they represent. Now, because of the fact that there's only 5 Spirit Guardians, and we know 3 of them, we can kind of do a process elimination to figure out exactly what these 2 represent. We know that Gaja is lightning, we know that Floga is fire, and we know that Padrav is basically earth. We don't know exactly if he does earth magic kind of like Soul, or if he has more plant magic kind of like Charlotte, but we know that basically he is the Spirit Guardian of earth. So that leaves 2 elements left over, water and wind. So there's this kind of weird moment in the chapter after we switch over from Gaja to Noel and them. And it actually might just be due to the fact that this is a fan translation, so it might just be like a translation error. But we get this moment where the three of them had kind of been watching all the fights on Clover particular screens, right? And after the fights are done, they're celebrating the fact that everyone won. And Mimosa mentions that she was actually a little bit worried about the fights and whether or not everyone would be able to win. And Noelle kind of rebuffs that, saying that she was sure the entire time that each of them would win their fights. But in her head, she's thinking to herself that what a relief that they actually did manage to win, right? And in the very next panel, we get this moment where Lopertica kind of just basically reiterates what Noelle said. She basically starts off her sentence by saying, yeah, you're right, it is a relief that they actually managed to win. Now, Noelle didn't think this out loud, and again, this might just be a fan translation error, but the way this text, or like the way Lopertica was speaking in this panel, it kind of implies that she was able to read Noelle's mind. But anyway, moving past that, we actually end up getting introduced to the fifth and final Dark Apostle as he comes crashing into Lopertica's room. And because of the fact that I don't remember us getting a name for this guy, I'm going to refer to him for the rest of the video as Lickitung. And he gets taken out literally as soon as he enters the room anyway, so there wasn't really any threat to him. I mean, literally, like, he says, I think, like 5 lines of dialogue, and then Mimosa and Lopertica kind of team up to take him out. Now, it's kind of cool because the way to take him out is that instead of Mimosa using some kind of brand new technique, or even using some like old technique enhanced by rays, instead we see her use her flower cannon to attack the guy. And the way that she boosts it so that they can basically one-shot him is by having Undine and Lopertica feed their magic or their mana through the cannon to kind of boost its power so that they can make sure that this guy gets taken out with one shot. And if you remember what I said in my last review about the reason why I think Tabata was giving us each of these one-chapter fights, is because in my opinion, I think he was basically giving us little samples of what each of these characters are capable of post a time skip before they get a more serious fight where they have to go all out. Although it's a little bit different because like with Leo and Luck, we saw them use arrays in their techniques and we actually got to see their true magic attack. But I actually think the reason for that, and this actually kind of fits with the reason why Charmy didn't use a brand new technique in the last chapter, is because of the fact that we actually got to see an example of the results from Mimosa's training prior to this, back when we saw her use her brand new healing magic to heal all those people earlier on in the arc. So that's most likely the reason why Tabata didn't show us her using a brand new attack that has something to do with, you know, the runes and arrays, because of the fact that we already saw her use arrays post a time skip for the first time earlier on. And since her one-shotting this Dark Apostle, just like how in the last 2 chapters we got each of the characters taking out their opponents very easily, was basically just supposed to be a sample of what they're capable of doing now. I'm guessing in the next chapter, since he ends up getting back up at the very end of the chapter, we're actually going to see her in the next chapter use those brand new techniques that she learned from training in the Heart Kingdom to defeat him now. And you know what, I'm actually kind of interested in exactly what type of magic or what type of attack that Mimosa would have, because really the only attack spell we've ever seen her use is her flower cannon. So I'm wondering if she would just have more variations of the flower cannon, because in my head I'm imagining that maybe Mimosa will have like multiple flower cannons, kind of like she could shoot multiple ones off at once using the arrays and then actually have the same kind of power level as her original flower cannon. Or maybe Tabata is actually going to set up some kind of special transformation for Mimosa in the next chapter. Because if you notice at the end of the chapter, when the 3 of them are charging at Vanica and Lickitung, she's the only one who didn't have some kind of transformation out of her original form. And I mean, we already know that Mimosa does already technically kind of have a transformation with her Princess Healing Flower Robe, but that's only meant for healing. But I mean, it's not that unimaginable that Tabata would be able to come up with an attack version of it. Now, I gotta say, I really love the way Tabata introduced Vanica in the chapter. Because, alright, everyone's celebrating the fact that they one-shot Lickitung, and then everything's quiet and calm for like, 2 seconds, and then all you hear from the dark hole that Lickitung created when he came crashing into the room is, Yahoo! Lopertica-chan, and then in comes walking Vanica, in my opinion, the most terrifying of the 3 Dark Triad members. And I mean, if you see that smile that she puts on while she's talking to Lopertica later on in the chapter, there's no question as to why I think she is the most terrifying out of the 3. I mean, yeah, you got Zeno, who is very terrifying because of the fact that he seems like the type of character who would kill you without a second thought just because you looked at him sideways. And you got Dante, who is very terrifying because of how creepy he is. But with Vanica, man, do you need any other proof of the fact that she's probably the most terrifying than that smile? I mean, seriously, that fucking smile. That is a smile of a yandere character. And I can't believe it actually took me this long to figure out that that's what Tabata was setting up with her character. And you know, because of that, that actually has me more scared for Mimosa and Noelle than anything else. Because, I mean, obviously she's going to want to play around with Lopertica in the next chapter when they're fighting. And very obviously, Noelle and Mimosa are going to get involved. Especially Noelle, because she already wants to have a 1v1 with Vanica because Vanica's tied to Megikuo, and Megikuo is the one who killed her mom. So in the next chapter, when we see Noelle try to, interfere with the fight between Orbitica and Vanica, Vanica's going to go crazy on her. So I'm a little bit worried that Noelle might not be walking out of this 100%. I mean, she's obviously going to walk out of this alive. If anyone, I would think that Orbitica is the only one who's possibly going to die. Maybe Mimosa, because she's not that important of a character, but most likely just Orbitica. But if Noelle gets in between the two characters, she's definitely walking out of there with a few scars. And you know what? I actually kind of wonder how Tabata's going to pull this off. Because for a while now, I've been saying that if anything, Orbitica is most likely going to end up dying. Now, I mean, I guess the way Tabata's probably going to handle this is that he'll have Vanica somehow, use Megikuo to accelerate Orbitica's curse. Because she, as of right now, I believe, right, so she had a year when she met everyone. They trained for 6 months, so she should have, 6 months to a little over that left when it comes to dealing with the curse. So I'm guessing Vanica's probably going to somehow accelerate it so that she has maybe a day, or she's going to die this instant if Megikuo's not defeated. And I guess the only way they could actually really save her is if they have Nero use her sealing magic to kind of seal her body in a state so where she's kind of not alive but at the same time not dead. I guess that's the only really way they can actually do that. And speaking of Nero, where is she right now? Because she wasn't with Asta when he was fighting against Dante and he went back to the Black Bull headquarters. And the last time we saw her, she was hanging out with Noelle. And it's actually kind of weird that Tabata has her missing right now when she would actually be really useful in the fight against Vanica. And I guess that's actually the reason why he has her kind of being MIA, because of the fact that if she was there, it would be a little less believable that these characters wouldn't be able to, the four of them combined, team up and defeat Vanica and this Dark Apostle. And you know what, actually speaking of Lickitung, and actually pretty much all the Dark Apostles that we've seen since chapter 247, Vanica, once he realizes that all of them have been defeated, basically uses, and I'm not sure if this was a translation error or not, but she says that she uses her curse to kind of revitalize them and essentially making them immortal, basically because of the fact that she's using her curse. Even if you kill them, they can't stay down, they won't stay dead. So she's pretty much made them as immortal opponents for each of the characters to refight. And you know what, actually speaking of Lickitung and all the Dark Apostles that we've seen since chapter 247, Vanica actually ends up using her curse, and I'm not sure if this was a translation error and she actually meant to say magic, but she says in the chapter that she used her curse to basically revitalize them and essentially make them immortal, because she says in the chapter that because of her curse, even if you kill them, they aren't going to stay dead. So she pretty much made immortal opponents for everyone to refight. And it's actually kind of interesting that Tabata went this route, because that's pretty much the only way these characters can even be a threat to any of the three anymore, or actually four, because God just took out one, because of the fact that each one of them, especially when it comes to Leo and Charmy's characters, they were each very easily taken out. Leo's character gave him a little bit of a hard time, but that's only because he kept him at a distance. Once Leo closed that distance, he took him out with one shot. And the same thing happened with Charmy's opponent. She very easily took her out as soon as Charmy transformed into her dwarf form. So there really isn't that much of a hurdle for them until you give them this immortality boost. Basically, now that they become immortals, they can't very easily defeat them. They could probably still outmatch them when it comes to power-wise, but because of the fact that they won't stay down anymore, they're pretty much going to eventually just outlast Charmy, Luck, and Leo, and even probably Gaja. And you know what, actually speaking of Gaja, even if he somehow does end up managing to defeat his opponent, the chapter made it pretty clear that he won't be able to get back to protect Orbitica in time, because of the fact that he said he had to go pretty far away in order to get to this Dark Apostle in order to protect this, Spirit Guardian that he helped save. And Orbitica also mentions the fact that he couldn't reach where that Spirit Guardian was being attacked from, or any of the Spirit Guardians were being attacked, with her water magic because of how far away they were. Now, the fact that Vanica actually used her curse, again, I'm not sure if that was a translation error or not, but the fact that she used her abilities to revitalize each of the Dark Apostles kind of goes along with the theory that this one person had online about the demons from the Spade Kingdom and exactly what type of magic they had. And the theory kind of reads that each demon from the Spade Kingdom, their magic is tied to the human body in some way. And it actually does kind of work if you think back to it, because Zeno's magic was bone magic, or at least his demon's magic was. When it came to Dante, the way we saw him basically use the demon's magic to kind of cover the wound that Yami gave him, seemed like the flesh was kind of bending over itself. So, maybe his demon has flesh magic. And then we see each of the Dark Apostles that we've seen up to this point, each one of them does have a magic that deals with the skin, or with the body. Because the first one had skin magic, the second one's demon created eyeballs, The third one had hair magic, the fourth one had nail magic, and then obviously Lick of Tongue's magic was tied to his tongue. So far, based off of all the magics that we've seen, the theory actually does kind of fit. And if this theory is actually right, the person also mentioned that most likely Vanica has blood magic, which could actually explain the reason why she's able to revitalize each of her Dark Apostle subordinates and basically keep them immortal by basically somehow manipulating their blood to keep them alive. I'm actually really looking forward to these next few chapters because I'm assuming we're going to be spending them focusing on the fight with Vanica. And we already know based off the fight with Dante and the fight with Zeno that this is probably going to be a very epic fight between Noelle and Vanica at some point. And I'm actually even a little bit more excited because I have this kind of theory going on in my head that just like how we had Yami show up to help Asta in the fight against Vanica or against Dante, I'm thinking that maybe because of the fact that we know that Real is somewhere in the Heart Kingdom somewhere, he has to be somewhere in the Heart Kingdom, that maybe he might end up showing up and helping them fight against Vanica. Now, I don't think he's actually going to help them win the fight, but maybe at some point he might end up showing up to help them out. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for me this week. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, drop me a like, subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Comment down below with your thoughts and theories on the chapter, and I'll catch you guys next week. Peace.